Hey, what's up? It's Tech Bro Cholo here, and welcome back to where we take awesome out of the box. Now, I've been really excited to make this video because I've been personally excited to review this phone. That's because today we're finally taking a look at the brand new Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite. For the pros, of course, it is very thin and very light. It also has some great sounding stereo speakers as well as 10-bit support, which gives it a broader color range. Now for the cons, yes, it has glass protection, but it is not Gorilla Glass, so we don't really know how durable it could be. And it also faces some tough competition against the Redmi Note 10 Pro. Well, in some features. Otherwise, I really like the features of this phone. Okay, so it's called the Mi 11 Lite for a reason. But aside from being very light, we're gonna be telling you why this baby is what we call the featherweight champ. But before that, because we are Unbox PH after all, we have to unbox it. The packaging seems fairly standard with the 11 branding and more specs at the bottom. On the sides, we got the Mi 11 Lite branding as well as the words "with easy access to Google apps you use most." Inside, we have the charger, USB-C cable, jelly case, SIM ejector tool, paperwork, and a USB-C to 3.5mm jack adapter. So yeah, you get a full package with this phone, so it's perfect if it's your first ever smartphone or maybe something you're planning to gift to someone who's never had one. Now, taking a look at the phone, the Mi 11 Lite goes for a more boxy body that sort of reminds me of Apple's current design for the iPhone 12. This was probably done to set itself apart from the brand's other mid-range phones like the Redmi Note 10 Pro and Poco X3 NFC. The Mi 11 Lite is almost impossibly thin at just 6.8mm and is incredibly light at just 157 grams. To give you an idea, it's so light that it even beats the weight of the OnePlus Nord by 30 grams. Xiaomi might have made the Mi 11 Lite incredibly thin and light, but that doesn't mean they skimped out on the features. Despite the phone's impressive dimensions, you still get stereo speakers, good battery life, and a triple rear camera setup. And the phone shares the same module design as the vanilla Mi 11, meaning you still get the large square bump and the rectangular inner bump for the main camera and the ultra-wide angle camera. And the bump, despite being big, doesn't add much of a bulge on the Mi 11 Lite's svelte frame. Though we do recommend using the included case to help the phone lay flat when you place the phone camera down on a surface. And it also keeps the fingerprints away because the super shiny back attracts prints like crazy. Now moving on, the Mi 11 Lite also uses a hybrid SIM tray, which lets you choose between using 2 SIMs or a single SIM and a micro SD card. And together with that, below is half the speakers and the USB-C port. We don't get a headphone jack here, so that explains the included dongle in case you want to use some wired earphones. Now on the right of the phone, we have the power button and the volume rocker. Okay, so the Mi 11 Lite's 6.55-inch AMOLED panel is not inferior to the Redmi Note 10 Pros, despite having a lower 90Hz refresh rate. Aside from the fact that 90Hz is still pretty smooth, the Mi 11 Lite's main advantage is its support for 10-bit color, which translates to wider color range, which we'd gladly take over slightly faster refresh rates. Maybe it's just me, but after watching a couple of HDR videos on YouTube, it seemed like we had a wider and more accurate color gamut compared to the usual AMOLED screens. Either way, you guys know we love AMOLED here, and with this phone, you'll have a blast enjoying your favorite content. Pair that up with the fact that we get some killer stereo speakers, and based on my experience, they sound really good. Aside from having a fuller sound, the Mi 11 Lite speakers maintain their audio fidelity even if you pump up the volume to 100%. Here's a sound sample, but again, it's not going to be exactly accurate because we're using a microphone to capture the sound. You gotta hear it in person to really feel the difference.
I just wanna bet myself in your history.
Another aspect where the Mi 11 Lite and Redmi Note 10 Pro debate continues is with the cameras. On the Mi 11 Lite, you only get a triple rear camera setup, 64-megapixel ISOCELL GW3 main camera, 8-megapixel ultra-wide-angle camera, and 5-megapixel telemacro camera that has autofocus. The Mi 11 Lite seems to have great post-processing, as well as good dynamic range on the main camera and ultra-wide-angle camera lens. And aside from better post-processing, the improvement in camera performance is more noticeable with the ultra-wide-angle camera. Most mid-range Xiaomi phones, Poco and Redmi included, struggle delivering decent performance for their ultra-wide-angle cameras. The Mi 11 Lite is an exception. Xiaomi has figured out how to optimize the ultra-wide-angle camera and the photos it produces while using the same 8-megapixel snapper. It's always nice seeing successful brands like Xiaomi continue to improve. I'm really happy with this. And aside from video features like vlog, movie effects, and dual video, the Mi 11 Lite's 4K video recording is relatively stable. Proof that the main camera's electronic image stabilization is working very well. They even included steady video, which gives you rock-steady footage, but with a little bit of a crop. Next up, like the Redmi Note 10 Pro and Poco X3 NFC, you get a Snapdragon 732G processor inside the Mi 11 Lite. In fact, it is very similar to the Redmi Note 10 Pro, as the Mi 11 Lite also has 8GB LPDDR4X RAM and 128GB UFS 2.2 storage. As we mentioned in our full review of the Redmi Note 10 Pro, the Snapdragon 732G is essentially a higher clock version of the popular Snapdragon 720G. So overall performance is roughly the same, if not slightly higher in some benchmarks. And if you compare the Mi 11 Lite to the Redmi Note 10 Pro and Poco X3 NFC, the numbers are also roughly the same as well. That being said, the Snapdragon 732G has roughly the same gaming performance as the Snapdragon 720G. I tried playing Genshin Impact on it on medium settings, aka the best settings you can get before getting that overclock warning on the phone. But yeah, it ran pretty smoothly and I was really happy with it. Although it is worth noting that it does get a little hot after playing an hour's worth of Genshin, but not enough to really burn your fingers. Maybe this is because of the build materials that they used to make it light, or maybe because it's really thin. With their video loop test, the Mi 11 Lite lasted for 11.5 hours, which should translate to at least a day's worth of use. Considering that the Mi 11 Lite has a 4250 mAh battery and powers a 90Hz display, its battery life is technically better than the Redmi Note 10 Pro. Even if the Redmi Note 10 Pro has a bigger 5020 mAh battery, the difference in battery life is roughly 30 minutes. And that's probably because of the 120Hz display that consumes more power than the Mi 11 Lite's 90Hz panel. See, you still get a smooth experience with a 90Hz display, and you get some extra battery life along with it. Like the Redmi Note 10 Pro, you get a speedy 33-watt wired charging solution with the Mi 11 Lite. And since you're dealing with a smaller battery, it takes less than an hour to top the Mi 11 Lite's battery from 0 to 100%. Despite being in a rather awkward spot, with its price being close to the top-end variant of the Redmi Note 10 Pro, the most affordable Mi 11 variant has its own strengths to make it stand out from its siblings. Aside from having a skinny body and being insanely light, the Mi 11 Lite is better than the Redmi Note 10 Pro with its better display, more efficient battery life, and better overall camera performance. That being said, the Mi 11 Lite caters to an audience that is different from the Redmi Note 10 Pro. It's a phone that's meant for those who prioritize a phone that's thin and light while having the best possible set of features it can carry. And you can grab your own for just 14,990 pesos for the 8GB RAM, 128GB storage variant. You can check out reviews on this and many other smartphones on Unbox.ph. Also, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Yup, subscribe, because when we hit 250k subs, we're giving away a smartphone. So, don't forget a hashtag #SubToUnbox. Hit the notification icon if you want to get updates when we drop videos. Once again, it's your tech bro Cholo, and I'll see you guys in the next one.